Hello and welcome to Whence, a Freemasonic podcast featuring research papers and discussions related to Freemasonry. I'm your host, Robert Johnson, a York Rite Mason and Knight Templar. This week I wanted to address some of the changes I made to both the full web version of the blog as well as the Google mobile version of the blog that comes up when you use your phone or other device to come to the site. You'll notice a more streamlined experience on the blog page, which is easier to read and also, I believe, looks more fresh and a lot less cluttered. The mobile version is now a kind of tabbed out version using a new open platform. It mirrors the feel and a bit of the look of the full web version. The other thing I wanted to address is the blog post I had made at the beginning of last week regarding some collaboration with the Midnight Freemason, Brother Todd E. Creason. Brother Creason is putting forth a team effort to enhance his blog, and I'm proud to say I'll be somewhat of a regular contributor to it as well. Our show's Flash Player is embedded on his site as well. You'll find my bio on the right side, along with a few other wonderful contributors. Please check out the Midnight Freemason, and you'll find a permanent link to his site at the bottom of our blog page. The pieces I'll be writing or submitting for the Midnight Freemason will be additional to the podcast, meaning if I write something for the Midnight Freemason, it won't necessarily be read on the show, but I'll let you all know via the podcasts when the posts are up on the Midnight Freemason as well as post them on the blog. The first post I'll have written for the Midnight Freemason will be on May 7th, and the second one will go up on May 21st. And jumping right into the show this week, I'll be reading a short piece on perpetuating the Royal Arch. The following is from Knight Templar Magazine May 2012, entitled under the Guest Observations section, and the paper is by George C. Sellers, General Grand Master, General Grand Council, Cryptic Masons International. Today we are living in a different world from yesterday. Tomorrow will be entirely different from yesterday or today. The noted historian George Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel believed in historical cycles. The end of one cycle is then the beginning of another. As we cycle, changes are inevitable. This reminds me, in some manner, of Freemasonry. But the real question in this article is, can Freemasonry change to meet the demands of social and structured classes of the world today? Some time ago, I read an article which caused me to ponder some of our Masonic achievements and failures, and how, with strength and perseverance, some will grow from this experience while others will fail because of their lack of direction, focus, or commitment. What did the story remind me of? Something remarkable, perhaps even memorable. One summer many years ago, as I prepared to dismantle our family pool and was taking a break from the 90-degree plus heat, a mother duck with 11 ducklings walked across our backyard. It created quite a spectacle. Not that we hadn't seen ducks before, but in our yard, a quarter of a mile from Lake St. Clair. It was strange and delightful, yet a sense of apprehension prevailed. What a journey! There were expressways and major roadways, high speeds, fences with dogs behind them and children too. What a trip! The ducklings followed their mother without question. Sometimes the ducklings were confused and raced for safety. Instantly, the mother duck stood her ground and gained command of a possible bad situation. Later that day, they reached a major highway. Cars were racing past. Few recognized the plight of the 12. In one instant, the flock exploded as the mother duck became frantic. Life is simple. Life is also tragic. Now there was left only one duckling and its mother. The rest scattered or died on the street. In the fall, I observed on the lake near my home a mother duck and one duckling. It was a reminder of that summer day. Does this story remind you of the love we have for the York Rite and how it cares for and loves you? How one small, insignificant member meant the success or failure of change? Our leadership knows very well that the officers are sometimes harassed, beleaguered, and confused. They bleed with tears when the membership doesn't respond, understand, or even care. This is when we have the opportunity to labor against all odds and to prevail to be stronger and enriched by the experience. That's why the leadership stands to teach, to deliver the messages, and gather the ducklings. Get out into your York Rite. Surround yourself in its protective care. Set your standard high. Leadership is carrying the banner, leading in the battle, and an opportunity to serve. Next is this week's Lodge Spotlight. The Grand Lodge of California. The following information is pulled directly from their website. Masonry in California. Masonry has been an integral part of California for more than 150 years. During the gold rush of 1849, thousands of settlers came to California in search of fortune. Many of these men were Masons and brought with them Masonic values and traditions. Not surprisingly, some of California's first Masonic lodges were established in the mining towns of the gold country. In 1850, the same year that California became a state, the Grand Lodge of California was established in Sacramento. Within 10 years, the number of Masonic lodges in the new state had grown from 11 to 130, while membership soared from 258 to more than 5,000. Over the years, the Masons have played a key role in shaping the history of California. To date, 19 California governors have been Masons, and at least 4 California Masons have been elected to the U.S. Senate. Today, there are more than 60,000 members and about 340 lodges, making the Grand Lodge of California one of the largest in the world. Also, not part of this article, but they do have an interactive timeline of California Masonry, which you can find on their website. Continuing on about their members. With more than 60,000 members, Masonry in our state represents the entire spectrum of diversity. Masons believe in the importance of religion. Men of all faiths are members of the organization. Membership in California Masonry is growing and getting younger. The fastest growing segment of our membership is 18 to 30 years. About 2,000 men are initiated each year. Their average age is 39. Masonry is the brotherhood of like-minded men who genuinely care about each other. We develop lifelong friendships with fellow Masons and their families, and are welcomed at Masonic lodges throughout the United States and the world. The satisfaction of being part of a centuries-old fraternity whose traditions are core values and which are relevant today and will endure for centuries to come is important to California Masons. You can review their latest annual report to members and the interactive digital version of their award-winning magazine, California Freemason, and to learn more about Masonry in California and around the world. You can download a mobile app for the magazine at the iTunes App Store and the Android market, and you can also visit them on Facebook, YouTube, and follow them on Twitter. Next, I have an older news article that I found both interesting and somewhat amusing. Freemasons open a lodge at Buckingham Palace, but the Queen isn't amused, by Sarah Oliver, March 8, 2008. A branch of Freemasons' secret society is being formed by members of the royal household and police who protect the royal family, and their children. Decision to call it the Royal Household Lodge has put them on a collision course with Buckingham Palace, as has their plan to co-opt the royal cipher for their regalia to underline the connection to the Queen. Although the Queen's cousin, the Duke of Kent, is head of the secret organization, he is Grand Master of the United Grand Lodge of England. The new branch has not gone down well with the royal family. The palace has no power to halt the formation of the lodge, but it is determined to stop it adopting its chosen name and block it from hijacking the Queen's EIIR. Use of the royal household title and any related symbols requires official permission. Angry officials clearly feel the new lodge's proposed name is the last thing the palace needs at a time when it's trying to be seen as more modern and open. Last night, a spokesman for the Queen said, "Buckingham Palace has not and would not endorse this sort of arrangement. No permission has been given by the palace for a Buckingham Palace Lodge or anything similar. If permission is sought, it will be declined." The founding of the lodge has also alarmed some royal staff who do not wish to be associated with the fraternity famed for bizarre initiation rites, mystical regalia, and mysterious codes of conduct. It is also likely to cause consternation among career women in the palace, as it is a men's-only organization. Non-members in the royal service are said to be fearful they will be overlooked for prestigious promotions and left unsupported in any below-stairs clashes. Masons are widely believed to further the business and professional interests of brother Masons, although they would deny this and claim it is harmless social and charitable organization. The lodge, which will not meet at the palace but will be based in a Masonic hall elsewhere, will be open to all members of the royal household, from armed police protection officers to below-stairs staff such as pages and footmen. It will also recruit staff in other royal residences including Windsor Castle, Clarence House, and St. James Palace. A palace insider said, "There's a lot of consternation, and rightly so. People fear a lot of business will now be conducted behind closed doors so that those who don't sign up to Freemasonry can't have any effect on it. They are concerned that Masons will be preferred, and those who aren't Masons will be written out of the script. Backstairs life is already complicated enough. There are all sorts of allegiances and cliques and cabals. People fall in and out of favor, and there's a lot of whispering in ears. The last thing the household needs is a secret society, especially one with a reputation of Freemasonry." The United Grand Lodge of England issued the Royal Household Lodge with a warrant in June last year, although it will not formally exist until the consecration ceremony on May 19th at the Freemasons Hall in London. That will be followed by a celebration dinner for up to 300 Masons and their guests at a historic Lincoln's Inn. The insider said the idea had been generated by serving and past members of the Royal Protection Squad, SO 14. With new recruits, the total number involved is approximately 70. Author and broadcaster Martin Short, whose book Inside the Brotherhood exposed Masonic practices in the UK, he said, "It's a catastrophic time to start such a lodge, given all the problems facing the royal family at the present. The royal family is desperately trying to prove it's modernizing. In PR terms, this is bad news for them." And that's the end of the article. However, I was curious to whether there was an update to it. I had not found one, so if anyone finds an update, please share it with us. This week's Famous Freemason is taken directly from our brother Todd E. Creason's book, Famous American Freemasons, Volume 1 and 2. The Old Soldier. The best luck of all is the luck you make for yourself. Hazing was a harsh reality at West Point. Even though the young plebe cadet was the son of a high-ranking officer in the Army, he too was subjected to this torment. Hazing by upperclassmen was more often than not more childish than vicious, but without question it was something used to weed out the weak. Many plebes who couldn't handle even the sophomoric hazing dropped out. It separated the men from the boys. This plebe, a young man with an inviolable academic record, suffered hazing at the hands of upperclassmen in its most extreme form. Because he was a little stronger than most plebes and withstood it more easily, his hazing escalated. For example, he was subject to bare-knuckle fights. Winning one of the bouts was often worse than losing, because winning would lead you to rematches with larger and larger adversaries until the plebe inevitably fell, beaten and bleeding. He learned that lesson the hard way, fighting every time as best he could. In addition, his strength was tested over broken glass. He squatted and rose a few inches for extended periods of time while waving his arms until he fainted from cramps and exhaustion, but he endured the humiliation. When he became a yearling, and it was his turn to take part in the hazing tradition, he refused. Instead, he drilled the plebes mercilessly but humanely until they performed with remarkable efficiency, a technique he felt was far superior for separating the men from the boys. The hazing at West Point had gotten out of control. It became public knowledge when one of the plebes dropped out and died shortly after from tuberculosis. His family claimed his death was the result of his being forced to drink more than a gallon of Tabasco sauce during his hazing at West Point. Even though it was a medical impossibility for Tabasco sauce to have caused a plebe's death, the story spread. President McKinley ordered an immediate investigation of West Point. Many of the cadets were interrogated. Some admitted their guilt, telling what they had done. Some were exonerated, but others were expelled because of the extremity of their actions or because they were named by others. The young man was also interrogated about the hazing practices at West Point. From the time of his birth on a military post, his only aspiration had been to be a military officer like his father. The Army was the only life he knew. His academic record was flawless. He was ranked number 1 in his class, with Ulysses S. Grant II running a close second. Even so, he believed that neither his academic record nor his refusal to haze underclassmen would save him from expulsion if he failed to cooperate with the investigation. But that's exactly what he did. He refused to cooperate. When he was asked to name those who'd hazed him and to describe in detail the harassment he'd suffered at the hands of upperclassmen, he refused to name anyone who hadn't already confessed or been expelled. Under the blistering questioning of the Board of Inquiry and the enraged reactions at his refusal to cooperate, he stood fast. Now, of course, this is an excerpt. I'm not going to read the entire chapter on that. But if you like the way that sounds, you should check out the book. Of course, I was talking about Douglas MacArthur. On January 17, 1936, Brother Douglas MacArthur was made a Mason on site by Most Worshipful Brother Samuel R. Hawthorne, Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of Free and Accepted Masons of the Philippines. He joined Manila Lodge No. 1 and received a 32nd degree in the Manila Scottish Rite Bodies. He was later elected Knight Commander of the Court of Honor. On October 16, 1945, he received the 33rd degree in the United States by the ancient and accepted Scottish Rite, Southern Jurisdiction. When the Supreme Council 33rd of the Philippines was formed in 1951, he became a member of the council and its Grand Orator. Brother MacArthur said about the fraternity, "Freemasonry embraces the highest moral laws and will bear the test of any system of ethics or philosophy ever promulgated for the uplift of man." Links to purchase the book are on our webpage at wcypodcast.blogspot.com. It really is a great read, and I encourage you to definitely check it out. Now that's it for this week. Remember to like the show on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at Whence, and add us to your circle and email us at the address wcypodcast@gmail.com. Visit the website for anything related to the show, like merchandise, the apps for the Android and Apple mobile device, and other wonderful Masonic links, wcypodcast.blogspot.com. Well, until next week, keep that trowel in motion. For Whence, I'm Robert Johnson.